Hello and welcome. I am Chakshu Roy and you are watching Laws in the Making on Rajya Sabha TV. Today we will be discussing the Motor Vehicles Amendment Bill 2017. The Motor Vehicles Amendment Bill increases penalties for offences like drunk driving and links the validity of an individual's driving license with their age. It also allows for computerization of services like grant of driving licenses, permits and payment of fines. The bill increases compensation for accident victims and provides protection to individuals who help people involved in accidents. The amendments enable recall of defective motor vehicles and brings taxi aggregators within the Motor Vehicles Act. To discuss the bill, I have on the show Mr. Piyush Tewari, founder and CEO of SaveLife Foundation, and Mr. Subhash, principal scientist and head traffic engineering and safety division CRRI. The Motor Vehicles Amendment Bill is a comprehensive amendment to the existing Act of 1988. It addresses important issues like road safety, compensation and insurance, regulation of taxi aggregators and recall of vehicles.
Vehicles have been increasing on our roads steadily. So have the road accidents caused by them. In 2007, the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways set up a committee on road safety that recommended setting up road safety authorities at national and state levels. In 2016, a group of state transport ministers recommended reforms in the road transport sector and suggested that the Motor Vehicles Act 1988 be amended to address urgent issues related to road safety.
Unless the entire country's documentation is done digitally, this entire operation may take a little while to be able to be actually functional, because there are small districts in remote areas where all the documents, all the information is still on hard paper, which has to be converted into soft copies and then put up on the internet, whereby you can access any information from anywhere. So unless that comes into force, it's very difficult, to do away with the existing systems of RTOs and with offices which are going to be doing interaction with public.
Accordingly, the Motor Vehicles Amendment Bill has suggested a number of measures. It empowers the government to create a scheme for cashless treatment of accident victims in the golden hour, the 1 hour time period after the accident when traumatic injury can result in deaths. The bill also creates a motor vehicle accident fund that will provide compulsory insurance cover to all road users. The money will be used to treat individuals injured in road accidents and compensate victims and family members of the hit-and-run accidents.
This is a new feature which normally we have seen in the Europe and in America. So if any defect is noticed by the state or central government, or any vehicle is damaging the environment, or it may be harmful for the drivers or the passengers, then orders can be given for recall of the vehicle. There will be two consequences. The first consequence, that the car company may have to give the compensation, and the second consequence may be car company may have to give the replacement of the car. Till now, very rarely such type of features are implemented in India, and this is a new feature which is being brought by this new law.
To further strengthen road safety, the bill increases penalties for drunk driving from 2,000 rupees to 10,000 rupees. The bill provides penalties for underage drivers and holds guardians responsible for offences committed by underage drivers. To encourage the public to help victims, the bill protects Good Samaritans who help accident victims from civil and criminal proceedings.
The Motor Vehicles Amendment Bill will be discussed in the upcoming winter session of Parliament. Piyush, I wanted to come to you first. So why is this bill, important? What is the impact that it will have on the citizens of this country?
You see, Chakshu, in the past decade, over 1 million people have been killed in road crashes in India. What that really means is about 400 plus deaths every single day. And what that in turn means is that, in a way, a fully loaded jumbo jet 747 is crashing every day in India. That's the load it carries, 747-400. So it's a pandemic of sorts, and unfortunately, the law that we had, the Motor Vehicles Act of 1988, has not been able to keep pace with the developments that have happened in both transportation aspects, but also the safety aspects. And therefore, what this bill really aims to do, a large part of it, because there are also transportation elements, but a large part of the bill also aims at addressing these gaps that have existed in the Motor Vehicles Act of 1988. As an example, the Motor Vehicles Act of 1988 has zero provisions for protection of children during commute. Now, every day in India, 20 children under the age of 14 are killed in road crashes. And while there are Supreme Court guidelines on school buses, very few children actually use school buses to travel to school. So what the bill really intends to do is to protect children by introducing child helmets, child restraint systems, and a system of adult accountability, which means that if an adult is irresponsible or irresponsibly driving while having a child on board, there is a liability that they will face. Similarly, some of the newer things that have happened is that a number of crashes happen because of faulty infrastructure, faulty roads. And for the first time in the history of our country, faulty road design and engineering responsible for crashes is being penalized.
Mr. Chand, you've dealt with the issues of road for a number of years now, and there's been an increase in the road length in the country. And I was looking at numbers. I think in the last, between 2005 2015, the roads in this country have increased by a length of about 44%. Increased roads, better roads mean more vehicles on the roads. More vehicles on the road then in turn mean accidents. So what do you think, this bill is doing when it comes to, change in road design or road safety?
Yes, Chakshu, there have been increase in number of roads, and equally traffic has also increased on our roads, but the pace of development has not taken into consideration the ill effects of road safety, which are part and parcel of the increasing traffic and the increasing number of vehicles on the road. In the engineering part, actually, we have to be responsible while designing the road, while implementing the traffic management schemes on these roads. So there also actually not much was elaborated in the previous bill. Now this bill tried to introduce some responsibility to the designers, to the consultants, and to the stakeholders agencies to be responsible in the engineering designs and their operation also. So definitely this bill will help in making our road more safe.
Okay, so what you're saying is, if there's going to be an increase on road traffic, humans will commit mistakes, but some of those mistakes can be mitigated if the road design was slightly better, and this bill is providing some kind of a specification for that. Piyush, let me ask you this. You mentioned some alarming numbers about the number of fatalities caused due to road accidents.
Yeah.
What is the existing mechanism if an accident occurs on the road? What happens? I mean, who are the agencies involved? When the bystanders, intervene and try to help people out, what is the problems that they face?
Right. Let me start by explaining what an ideal scenario should be, and then we'll compare with what is actually happening in India. In an ideal scenario, a chain of survival kicks in, and a chain of survival kicks in with a bystander calling a universal access number, which is a 3-digit or 4-digit number, easy to remember, calling for help regardless of where they are in the country, and that call is received and help is dispatched. While the help is on its way, if there are trained bystanders or trained passers-by available, they can do a number of things, starting from first aid to, at the very least, providing words of comfort to the person who's injured. Once the help arrives, it's an ambulance or a police vehicle. They have to follow some basic standards, and they are not merely transportation vehicles, they are actually intervention vehicles. So they should be able to intervene and save lives of those who are injured during transit. Once the person arrives in the hospital, they should be handed over to the hospital, and the hospital then needs to do what it's supposed to do. And for that, there are multiple systems that are required, which are currently missing, but things are moving in some parts of the country as far as in-hospital care is concerned. And finally, the most ignored part, currently, but it's a part of the chain of survival, is rehabilitation for injured victims. 10 times more people, are injured than killed, and many of them as much as 50% or more come from very poor and vulnerable economic backgrounds. So for them, it's a huge economic and social burden. Now, in India currently, what's happening is if we plot it against this chain of survival, we unfortunately don't have a nationwide universal access number. In some states it's 108, in some states it's 100, some states it's 102, in some states it might be a 10-digit mobile number. So calling is a challenge. Who do you call for help? Secondly, in 2016 in SaveLife Foundation versus Union of India, Supreme Court had laid down specific guidelines and provided them force of the law under Article 141, 142 of the Constitution, insulating Good Samaritans from any kind of hassles. So we are hoping that as the word gets around, people will come and help. Finally, the ambulance services have improved, but there's some way to go. And within the hospital system, one of the biggest challenges as far as data is concerned is trauma registry, and we want to make sure that that is done. So currently, there is a long way to go in terms of what should happen, but we are seeing some improvements in terms of both response of ambulances and bystanders.
Okay. Mr. Jan, so you've designed roads, or you've studied, how road design should happen. What should change in the design of our roads? What should change in the design of our traffic management systems so that we can at least minimize some bit of road accidents in this country?
Yeah, Chakshu, you are very right actually. As far as the traffic safety is concerned, there are 5 pillars of safety, because it is a multi-kind of discipline wherein so many factors contribute to an accident. First is the safe management of our road and transport system. So wherein actually the responsibility comes from the government, but they are taking in different departments how this traffic management system is handling all these issues. Then comes the safe infrastructure, wherein the role of the designer, engineers and the traffic managers comes into play. We need to actually take care of road design in such a way that it should always be a forgiving design. In case of any accident, our infrastructure should be such that it should not penalize the users with the death penalty or a huge loss to the property or the limbs and injuries. So in doing that, we have to inculcate into our design the concept of road safety. We should introduce these road safety audits before implementing it. This is the concept wherein the independent party who is not the designer or who is not the implementing agency, they look into the aspects of the safety before going for implementation.
It's time for us to head into a break. When we come back, we'll discuss provisions relating to driving licenses and recall of vehicles. Welcome back. The Motor Vehicles Amendment Bill 2017 was introduced in Lok Sabha in 2016 by Union Minister for Road Transport and Highways, Shri Nitin Gadkari. A Parliamentary Standing Committee and a Select Committee of the Rajya Sabha have examined the bill. Lok Sabha passed the bill in 2017, which is now pending before Rajya Sabha.
Under the Motor Vehicles Act of 1988, driving licenses are valid for 20 years from issue or till the person attains 50 years of age. After 50 years, the license is valid for 5 years. The bill amends this to create several categories for the validity of licenses. Accordingly, if the person applying for the license is below 30 years, his license will be valid till he turns 40. Between 30 and 50 years, his license will be valid for 10 years. Between 50 and 55 years, his license will be valid till he turns 60 years. Above the age of 55 years, license will be valid for 5 years. The bill also enables computerization of issuing driving licenses, permits and payment of fines.
The part of which has become online is only the learner's license. The license will have to be done by the state governments only, but the intention of the government is to provide the testing grounds where the entire thing is being done with minimum human interface on cameras and videographed, so that the current licensing regime in which people say that you can get a license even without giving a test is over, and there will be no role for the person to just give a license even if the other person doesn't know how to drive, because everything that the driving test will be videographed and a proper record will be maintained. So, even if he has committed some error while driving, that will be recorded and he will not be able to get a license.
The bill allows the central government to order recall of defective motor vehicles. A defective vehicle can be recalled if it can damage the environment, the driver, or other road users. In case of recall of a vehicle, the manufacturer will have to either reimburse buyers with the full cost of the vehicle or replace the defective vehicle with another vehicle with similar or better specifications.
Well, this process itself also has to be fine-tuned. I can understand metros, tier 1 cities, tier 2 cities, tier 3 cities where all these facilities will be available. But what about those remote places, where the district magistrate gives you licenses and things like that, and they also need to be online. So once all those systems become online, can only we expect this entire operation to be in absolute nick condition.
The bill brings aggregators like taxi hailing apps within the purview of the Motor Vehicles Act of 1988. It defines aggregators as digital intermediaries or marketplaces that can be used by passenger to connect with a driver for availing taxi services. It gives state governments the power to issue licenses to aggregators and gives the state governments the option to follow the relevant central government guidelines. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Piyush, before we went into the break, we were discussing about road safety, and one of the aspects of road safety and for victim rehabilitation is to provide some kind of financial measures to take care of them. Now, what is the bill doing in terms of compensation, in terms of help to accident victims?
Well, the bill actually doing a few things as far as victims are concerned. So one, of course, it is formalizing the Good Samaritan law guidelines through the enactment of this law, which will be a game changer in allowing bystanders to become rescuers of injured persons. So that's highly, highly commendable. I think the 201st report of the Law Commission of India stated that 50% of lives that are lost in road crashes can be saved if people get timely care, and I think this is really crucial for that. The second aspect is that of compensation. Currently, what happens is that the victim's family or the victim has to fight a long fight before they get any, before they see any kind of money. What the Motor Vehicle Amendment Bill is talking about is that immediately once the incident takes place, some cash is disbursed to the victim's families immediately, and then the insurance and the compensation system kicks in order to have a fair compensation given to the victim. So that again is something that is meant to provide immediate relief to those who get injured or unfortunately killed in such crashes.
Okay, Mr. Chand, I wanted to understand from you what are the road safety institutions in the country? I mean, if we wanted to ask who's responsible for ensuring that there's great design, our roads are better, is there a safety board of some kind? Because this bill is creating a centralized safety board.
Yes, Chuck. So, central board, a central agency is very much required for overall control of the transportation system and safety system in the country. As if now what is happening, the transport subject is state subject, and center do not have much control over the implementations of some of the laws which are very much required for safety. In this case, actually, there should definitely a central agency who will be giving the guidelines for each and everybody throughout the country. As far as the responsibility of different departments is concerned, first comes the road agencies. Road agency, they are responsible for providing the safe infrastructure in terms of good roads, better roads, and safe roads. And second agency is the transport authority, who has to take care of the safety of the vehicles and issuing the driving licenses, because drivers are very, very important. Unless their license are given in a proper manner and in a professional manner, they are going to actually involve in many, many accidents, And once we have a trained driver and their license is done through a proper channel, and there is least interventions of human aspects into that, this will give the transparency, and we will be getting good qualified drivers and safe drivers.
So proper and professional issuance of licenses, and that's one of the keys, because very often we have seen individuals are driving, they might have a valid driving license, but they might not be better or good drivers. Yeah. Piyush, what do you think?
Absolutely. So a vehicle in the hands of an untrained person is a weapon, and that weapon can and does kill people on the road. So what is the need of the hour is a good training system and a good evaluation system, and the bill talks about both in great detail. One of the challenges that we've seen is that some people carry multiple valid licenses because there's no centralization of licenses at this point of time. There's an attempt that is going on by the government, but there's no legislative backing to that attempt. So the bill provides legislative backing to the attempt of centralizing licenses through a biometric system, which will ensure that as an individual, I can only carry one license because it's linked to my my fingerprint or my retina scan, and I can't have multiple licenses. So that is one key aspect. The second aspect is the ease of getting a license. Right now, a lot of people go through touts or go through middlemen because the system is not very friendly. It's not easy to apply. It's not easy to go and stand at the RTO. So bringing technology into it will make it much easier for people to get licenses, but at the same time be willing to go through the tests that are required as part of that. If the system is large enough and friendly, it will help those who want to go through the system in a proper way and get the license. Finally, one of the big challenges that we saw in licenses was the aspect of ensuring that the validity period of the license is not massive as far as as it is currently.
Yeah, I remember when I got my license, it was valid for 20 years from the date I got it.
So the bill reduces the term of the license, which allows people to come back into the system and get reevaluated, because today I may have a certain skill set, but 20 years down the line, because of health issues or so on and so forth, I might have a different skill set. So the licenses, the new regime really looks at some of those things quite comprehensively.
Yeah. Mr. Chand, you made a very interesting point between a central law and the issue being an on-the-ground issue, so a state issue. And Piyush is alluding to it. He's saying, I can get a license from one state and I can also get another license from another state. One state's testing systems might be a little different than the other states. What do you think is the role of state governments when it comes to implementation of motor vehicles and the law to regulate motor vehicles?
Yes, Chakshu. State government has to be responsible, equally responsible as far as the safety is concerned. So while giving the driving licenses or while giving the license or registration of vehicle, there should be uniform throughout the country. Once a vehicle is registered in a country, it should be online available, its data should be online available, and registration plate has to be uniform throughout the country.
And there is some efforts being made in the bill to get all of this system online, not only so that it increases transparency, but also because it increases compliance.
Compliance also.
Okay, great. It's an open question to both of you. Increasing in punishments, right? In the beginning of the show, we talked about an increase in punishments for drunk driving, holding guardians responsible if an underage driver is driving a vehicle. What is the role that penalties play in ensuring proper behavior on the roads?
So there necessarily has to be a deterrence factor when you're driving, as I said, a weapon, right? So you have to have a sense of responsibility. You have to have sense of responsibility not just towards people who are inside the vehicle, but those who are outside. So penalties play a role as far as deterrence is concerned. Now, there was a big hue and cry when the bill was introduced that why is a 100 rupee penalty being taken to a 1,000 rupee penalty? Now, if you if you just look at inflation from 1988 when the penalty was 100 rupees to today, it should be 950 rupees. So it's not much different than what it should have been ideally, in today's day and age.
Yeah, as far as the penalty is concerned, definitely it is a deterrent for, and it is to control the behavior of the drivers or who are responsible for transportation.
Okay, that's almost all the time that we have today for discussing bills. Thank you, Piyush. Thank you, Mr. Chand, for joining us on this discussion. It is time for us to end the show. You can watch our shows on the RSTV page of YouTube. We will be back with new issue and a new episode. Keep watching Rajya Sabha TV.